It is with great pleasure that we welcome our guest speaker this morning. She is a distinguished communications strategist, evangelist, and Christian coach, renowned for her dedication to fostering meaningful connections within the faith community. She holds a master's degree in communications and is the founder of Epiphany Communications and Coaching, where she empowers individuals and organizations to communicate effectively and authentically. As the host of the show named Epiphany on Ave Maria Radio, she guides listeners on a journey to connect, collaborate, and communicate within the faith community, encouraging them to recognize those pivotal moments that draw us closer to Christ. Her extensive background includes roles as an award-winning journalist and author, with contributions to esteemed publications such as the National Catholic Register. Beyond her professional endeavors, she is deeply committed to community service, organizing initiatives like book drives to support English language learning among immigrant children. Her passion for storytelling, reading, and travel enriches her multifaceted approach to communication and coaching. I personally, the highly esteemed executive director who has yet to make a name for himself, was invited twice and honored to attend and speak on the Epiphany and be interviewed on the Epiphany program. So, ladies and gentlemen, please join me in extending a warm welcome to Vanessa Denha Garmo.
Thank you. It's kind of weird listening to people talk about you. It's like, okay, kind of unsettling. So I'm going to tell you a little story. We're talking about lead like Jesus, and it's leadership development from a Catholic perspective. And every single person in this room has leader in them. It's about developing that leadership, and I'm glad students are in here because I really hope that you think about how the Lord is calling you to develop the leader in you. And it's never too late to develop that leadership style in you, but I wanted to do it from a Catholic perspective. I do coaching all the time in the secular world, and I get so excited when somebody calls me and they want it from a Catholic perspective. When I have somebody in leadership running a company and they call me and they say, can you help me develop my leadership, but I want to do it as a Catholic. And I love that. So I'm going to tell you a little story. I was in adoration. It was at a annual conference called Awake My Soul. And it's through the Eastern Catholic Re-Evangelization Center. And it's a big deal. It's packed at the church. And St. Thomas Kellyan Church, I'm Kellyan, was packed. And I'm sitting in adoration, and I'm a little upset because my husband wasn't there yet. He was supposed to meet me for this conference. And I'm praying, and I'm asking the Lord to give me a sign about a business investment that my husband and I were getting involved in, and it was a piece of real estate in Detroit. And after we decided to go in and purchase this building with some partners, I found out after the fact that they wanted to put a dispensary in there. And I was like, oh no, I don't want anything to do with this. And I was very upset. My husband and I were going back and forth about it, and I'm in adoration, and I'm upset with my husband for not being there. And I said, Lord, I never ask you for a sign, but give me a sign. If you don't want us in this business, find a way to get out of it. Just please give me a sign. And the whole time in adoration, as praise and worship music is playing in the background, I'm praying this, and I'm also upset with my husband because he's not answering the phone. Finally, he calls me, and I'm in adoration, and I forget that I'm in adoration because I see his caller ID, and I'm like, where are you? And he goes, and I could tell something is wrong. He goes, Vanessa, that building in Detroit that we're investing in? I go, yeah. He goes, it imploded. I go, what? I go, what are you talking about? He goes, it's an earthquake. I go, an earthquake in Detroit, Ronnie? He goes, yeah, it's like an earthquake. He goes, hold on, I'm sending you pictures. I said, okay. He texts me pictures. This is the building. It rose up above the ground several feet and started to collapse. And so I said, Ron, you're not going to believe what I'm doing right now. He goes, what? I go, I'm in adoration. I've been praying for God to give us a sign whether we should stay in this business or not. He goes, are you kidding me? I go, no. He goes, well, I guess you got your sign. This is the road in front of the building in Detroit. I go home after this conference. It's all over the news. This building. I could hear fire trucks and police cars all in the background when my husband's talking to me on the phone. Now, I've told that story several times, and I get people now calling me saying, can you pray for me? I'm happy to pray for you, but I have no special power. I'm like all of you. I don't know why God gave me that profound sign. It doesn't usually happen that way, you know? But obviously God had a message saying, no, I don't want you having anything to do with this business. And so, needless to say, we're not in that business. And we actually lost the whole building. That's another story. So, Jesus should be our CEO. He's the CEO not of just my company. And I go to him, he's the CEO of my entire life. And we should, I pray this all the time, trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean on not on your own understanding in all your ways. Submit to him and he will make your path straight. You know, I was gifted this picture of Jesus that you see, it's on my desk. This is what I look at every single day when I'm working. My cousin gifted me this several years ago, and it was her form of ministry where she gifts this picture of Jesus and asks them to pray for her daughter. Her daughter was born with leukodystrophy. It's a form of a brain. You know how you have muscular dystrophy and your muscles are dying? Her brain was dying. She has since passed away. So Jennifer would gift this picture to people and say, please pray for my daughter Marie. So it was just part of her ministry. So I look at this picture every day, all day. He's my CEO, he's my coworker, he's my colleague. I vent to him all day long, but this is what I look at. This is who I look at every single day. And so we have to develop our leadership, we have to look to the CEO of our life, and that's Jesus Christ. So one of the things I incorporated at work is Faith at Work Fridays. And I interview, like you talked to Mr. Lomas being on my show, I like to ask guests whenever possible how they take their faith to work with them. And when they do, how do they see faith at work in their life? And faith should start in every aspect, even your aesthetics in your office. Like I said, I have Jesus sitting on my desk. Before anybody walks into my home, they will know my home is Christian because I have this on my front porch. It's a scripture verse from Micah. Ask justly, love mercy, walk humbly. I did that myself in an art class. And I said, I want anybody who walks into my home to know this is a Christian home. This is what you're walking into. And then when I was growing up, you see the 10 Commandments? When I was growing up, my parents had the 10 Commandments hanging on the front foyer of our house, right next to the front door. And I never really paid attention to it. I was like a kid. And one day, I used to skateboard past it, slide down the stairs past it, never really paid attention to the 10 Commandments. And then one day, I'm about 13, 14 years old, and I'm standing in the foyer, and I don't know what prompted me to stop and read the 10 Commandments. And my dad looks at me, he's getting ready to go back to work. My dad was in the grocery business, and he would come home every day at 3 to have dinner with us and go back to work. So he's watching me, and he's getting ready to go back to work, and he said, hey, do you know why I put those 10 Commandments at the front door? I said, no, Dad, I have no idea. He goes, so you know how to behave when you walk out that door. And so when I got married, I said, I want my kids to know the same thing. So I have the 10 Commandments on my front porch. No, oops, I should not be playing that. So I have another segment. So I told you Faith at Work Friday. I wanted to know how these amazing executives take their faith to work. I've interviewed Tom Monahan. I've interviewed the gentleman from Weingart's, 2 Men in a Truck, these wonderful leaders in the community who take their faith to work with them every single day. So I wanted to play with you a little segment from my program. This is Dan Weingart's. How many of you guys know Weingart's, the company? So this is he's 3rd generation, now it's 4th generation of a family running this, an amazing company worth $400 million. They are devout Catholics. They take their faith to work with them every day. They're successful in what they do, but as you're going to hear, I'm just playing a 3-minute clip of our 20-minute interview, how Dan takes his faith to work and what it means to him. So I'm going to play this really quickly. I just want you to listen to it.
And it's Faith at Work Friday here in Epiphany, and joining us now is a longtime supporter of Ave Maria Radio. Dan Weingartz is with us, CEO of W&P Management. Dan, thank you so much for joining us here in Epiphany for Faith at Work Friday.
Thank you so much for having me on, Vanessa. It's great to be here.
Yes, and we like to talk about people who take their faith to work with them every single day. Whether they're running a big company or a small organization, it's like, what does that look like? And when you take your faith to work with you, how do you see your faith at work in your life? So Dan, tell us how you take your faith to work with you every day, and your family, this family business. How do you all take your faith to work with you, and you particularly as the CEO?
Yeah, so, I guess, for me, it's I would say trying to keep things as a proper order of identity is like, I always say that, we have a lot of different identities, certainly for me as a husband, a father, and then, a CEO, a friend, somebody that, that works in the community. But the one that has to be first is that I'm a Catholic man first. And so to say, how do you take faith to work is kind of like how do you take your body to work is like, it's just, it should inform, everything that I do. Now, I'll be the first to say that I always have to try to remind myself of that, because it's really easy to get kind of into the things that you have to do. I mean, there are real responsibilities, and there are things that need to get done, but to try to remember that there is a purpose for all of this, and it goes beyond what this quarter or this year or this life ever will have to offer. And so that's I guess what I would say is that try to always remind myself, and like I say, some days I do a better job than others, and certainly there's times where it goes, where it feels like days and weeks where maybe I'm, off track, but trying to remind myself that, hey, this is part of what your vocation is. I really am a strong believer that God has put us here for a reason, that there's, and so if this is where I'm going to spend a lot of my life, that I should be doing it in the way that God wants me to do it, and that I should be asking for His guidance and trying to stay true to what I believe, in the Catholic faith of the way that we should conduct ourselves. And so, it doesn't mean that you don't have real things that go on that are tough decisions, and I say ultimately when you have positions of responsibility, you're going to make decisions that are not always good for everyone. There's going to be people that are going to be negatively impacted by things that I do, and so trying to make sure that just always having those things in mind and understanding that they're that I'm not doing those things, kind of separately from my responsibilities as a faithful Catholic. And
sorry guys.
It's Faith at Work Friday here in Epiphany, and joining us now is a longtime supporter of Ave Maria Radio. Dan Weingartz is with us.
I don't know how to stop it. Okay. All right, sorry about that. So I wanted to stop that. So he said a lot in like 2 minutes, right? It's that your identity. It's knowing you're a Catholic first. It's like taking my body to work. I had to laugh. I'm like, yeah, it is like taking your body. It's just part of who you are. And so whether you're running a huge company like he is worth $400 million, or you're running your household, it doesn't matter. We have to develop our leadership style based on our Catholic faith. That's how we bring our faith to work with us every single day. So my number one vocation is that of a wife and a mother. My job comes secondary. And we have to, as Christians, constantly pray and discern where the Lord is leading us. Like I said in adoration, asking the Lord to guide me in that business deal, we have to pray every single day and discern. And that's what Dan Weingartz was talking about. His work job starts with being a Catholic first, praying every single day. Father John Ricardo's father, who ran Chrysler, went to Mass every single day. He would not travel unless there was a church next to the hotel where he was doing business, so he can go to Mass every day. And that's how we have to take our faith to work. Tom Monahan, every daily mass, every single day when he was running Domino's till today, that's what we do as Catholics. So not many of us are going to run a business worth $400 million, but we still have to develop that leadership style in us, regardless of what you guys want to do in your career path. So we talk about prayer and discernment. Regular prayer is essential in life. We should start every single morning in prayer, asking the Lord to guide us. Father talked today about surrendering at the end of homily. That's an imperative part of leadership. I want to control every aspect of my life, and God is in heaven laughing, you know what I mean? Because I can't control every aspect. I can't control what other people do. So what I'm sharing with you today are 40-day leadership Lenten challenges that I developed for social media. Now, I'm not going to share every one of them with you, but this came in prayer to me. I was frustrated about something was going on in business and ministry, and things were happening out of my control that I wasn't happy with, and I decided to take Oreo for a walk, which is my 11-pound little Shih Tzu dog, and I usually pray the rosary when I'm walking, and this time I said, I'm just going to talk to God while I'm walking. And I was venting because I was very upset about decisions other people were making that were affecting me, that I didn't like. And I said, okay, God, what do you want me to do? These are out of my control. I'm not happy with it. It's affecting my business and my ministry, and I don't like the path I'm going down right now. And I felt God telling me, talk about leadership this Lent. Talk about leadership development from a Catholic person. It was so strong, and I'm like, well, how? And I'm thinking, well, how could I do that? And I felt God saying, there's 40 days, do 40 leadership tips. So that's what I started doing on Ash Wednesday. Every day I posted different 2 to 3 minute leadership tip on how to be a leader from a Catholic perspective. And I've been coaching on leadership for a long time, that it came very natural to me. These are research tools from psychology and leadership and communications. But what I did was I incorporated our faith in this. So leaders have to start in discernment and prayer, right? Regular prayer and seeking God's guidance are essential for making wise decisions. Where are we going in life? Every single day I'm making hundreds of decisions. You are too. We have hundreds and thousands of decisions daily, weekly in our life that we have to make. And God guides us through those, helping us navigate those challenges that we face every single day. Daily prayer is scripture reading, meditation, prayer asking for wisdom, patience, and other virtues in our life. You know, I have to pray every day for the virtue of patience because I don't have that naturally in me. So I pray for it every day. So we have to incorporate daily prayer in our leadership development. Discerning, where is the Lord calling us? You know, we have to examine our conscience. We have to seek counsel, get people's input. I ask questions all the time of other coaches and communication strategists so I can become better at what I do. So we have to seek counsel every single day. We embrace Catholic teachings, the dignity of the human person, solidarity. We have to help other people in need. So what does the Catholic Church teach us about leadership? We have a wealth of information between Scripture and the Catechism of the Catholic Church. There's so many wonderful resources that we can go to develop our own leadership style. So we role model. So who is Jesus? I talked to you about this picture on my desk. If you really want to know how to lead, we have to know the best leader, and that's Jesus. So who is he? I recently took a class because I'm constantly trying to learn and grow myself. And I took a class for 6 weeks called Who is Jesus? And these are the characters that we want to embody that Jesus embodies. He's a man of humility, man and God of humility. He taught us how to be humble. Well, how do you become humble? Well, you detach from the world. That's how you become humble. You detach from the things like, you know, the material things of the world, and you connect more with God. You trust. Father talked about surrender today. Surrender is probably the hardest thing for me to do. I have to tell you, I struggle with it. But when I truly surrender, the best things happen in my life. And it's like God's constantly hitting me on the head. Hello, do you get it? You know, surrender to me, I'll make it better. And there were 3 moments that were really profound in my life that I was struggling and I was surrendering. And I remember 20 some years ago, I was just broke up with somebody I was dating, and I said, okay, God, you know what? I don't even care anymore. I'm so sick of meeting these jerks. If you don't want me to get married, I'm fine. Just, you know, show me where you want from me. What do you want from my life? And I remember praying this, and I was praying this in one of the worst cities in America, and I was in LA, believe it or not. And I'm like, all this stuff going on in LA, and I'm like, get me out of here. And I'm praying And I'm like, God, please, just what do you want? So as I'm praying, like not even and this is no joke, not even 2 hours later, my cousin calls me up. She goes, Vanessa, what are you doing this weekend? I go, I'm flying home. I'm in California. She goes, I'm setting you up on a blind date. I go, what? She goes, you have to meet this guy. He's perfect for you. And I'm like, I don't know about that. And she goes, no, come on. What are you doing Saturday? I go, well, Saturday is my birthday. She goes, well, great birthday gift. I'm like, oh, fine, I'll go. So I go, and I was going to cancel because girls would understand this. My hair was a mess. My nails weren't done, and I didn't want to go. And I have 2 sisters, and they're like, we're doing your hair, and we're doing your nails, and you're going to meet this guy. So I go, and I'm going on this date, and I remember sitting there, I'm like, okay, God, I'm okay now, this is my husband. I knew the moment I met him, I was gonna marry him. Wow. I had to tell him a few months later that he was gonna marry me, but I knew it. I said, you know we're getting married, right? And he's like, I guess. So that was a profound moment. And then I was struggling to have kids. I had a few miscarriages. And I said, okay, God, if this is not your plan, I'm fine with it. It's okay. I'll adopt whatever you want from me. You know, if Ronnie and I are not meant to have kids, just show me what you want from me. And not even a week later, I was pregnant with my daughter. Now, he blessed me with 1 child. I felt very blessed. I couldn't have any more. But I feel like, okay, that was me surrendering. I've had many surrender moments, but one of the last third profound one was I was working in county government as a press secretary. Now, I'm not speaking out of school or gossiping because it was all over the news. The FBI was investigating. And I said, oh, I don't want to be here. I don't want to be the spokesperson on criminal activity, you know? And I was like, I kept saying, God, you got to get me out of here. I got to get out of here. And I was carrying our family benefits. My husband was growing a business. I had a newborn baby at home. I'm like, what am I going to do? I can't do this. And I remember getting in an argument with some of my coworkers about the FBI investigation. And I went back to my office and I printed it on a piece of paper and it said, I will not go to hell or jail for any of you people. And I put it on the back of my desk, and every day they'd walk in and they're like, take that sign down. I said, no, that's the truth. I said, you guys are not taking me down this road. So I remember crying, walking up about 2 blocks to my spiritual advisor who was at St. Aloysius at the time. And I said, Father Alex, I got to get out of here. I can't do this. He goes, Vanessa, calm down. He goes, your timing is not God's timing. And I said, I know, but I can't. He goes, just be the voice of contradiction, speak truth, and just wait for God. So I was not happy with that because I'm not a patient person, but I'm like, okay, I'll wait for God. So at the same time, I'm thinking, well, how am I going to do this? How am I going to make a living? I carry our benefits, you know, and I have a newborn at home. So about 9 months later, and believe me, that was very hard for me because I'm not patient, but 9 months later, I get a call from a former coworker at WJR who was working at this nonprofit and had some funding. And she goes, Vanessa, I got the perfect opportunity for you. Are you still working at the county? And I'm like, unfortunately. She goes, well, are you thinking of ever leaving? I said, yeah. She goes, well, I have a contract. Would you be interested? It's about 5 years. It's no benefits, but she told me the contract amount, it was my salary minus the benefits. I was like, are you kidding me? So I'm like, I'm going to go on my own. So that's when I started my company in 2010. Surrender is so powerful, and despite these 3 profound moments, I still struggle with it. I still struggle with letting go and letting God take over. And it's a constant struggle, but it's part of our journey. So surrender, I got caught up in surrender, but prayer is just not just reciting words, and Father could speak to this. It's really a relationship with God. He has to be your friend. That's why I have a picture of Jesus on my desk. He is my friend. He's my confidant. He's my ally. I talk to him all day long. It can't be just, prayer is beautiful. Rosaries are beautiful. Novenas are beautiful. But there has to be a connection. It can't be just reciting words all day long. It has to have a relationship with God. Courage. You know, it took courage. I don't know how I did it, but every day I spoke truth at the county. I refused to give in and be part of corruption. I refused. I didn't care what it cost me. And the head of the FBI announced after I left that he hired 15 additional agents to investigate the county. I'm like, oh, thank you, Lord, I got out. You know, service. Lord came to serve. When you're leaders, you're serving. When I'm coaching clients who say, I want that job promotion, I want to be the executive, I want to be the manager, I said, why? Why do you want that job? Because that means you're going to serve your people. They're not serving you, you're going to serve them. That's what leadership is. You're coaching people up. You're helping the people who are working for you. That's leadership. That's sacrifice. As moms, the biggest sacrifice in my life is being a mom. But it's the most joyful and the most beautiful. But that's my number one vocation. But there's no more powerful sacrifice than being a mother. Would moms agree? You got moms in the room, dads in the room, parents. It's a sacrifice raising your kids, right? It's not about you anymore. It's about their needs. And then mercy. We have to love everyone. I mean, I remember when I would come home crying because the kids bullied me on the playground, or as I got older, I'd complain about friends and then coworkers. And my dad used to say, every time I'd complain, pray for them. Pray for them. And he would say, I'm Chaldean, so he would say in Aramaic, he would say, pray for them, Brati, my daughter, pray for them. That's what he would always say. And I remember being an adult at work, and I was complaining about a coworker being very backstabby, and my dad said, pray for her, pray for her. I go, Dad, if you tell me pray for her one more time, I'm going to scream. And I said, she's not a nice person, Dad. Why would I pray for her? He goes, that's why you pray for her. And I'm like, what? And I go, what do you mean? He goes, if she was happy with herself, would she hurt you? And I said, no. He goes, so obviously she needs prayers. She's not at peace. And I'm like, oh. And it was like that epiphany moment, like, oh, she needs help. I need to pray for her. So that's what we do. Despite the people hurting us, and believe me, I still go through it. There's still disconnected, unsettled, unhappy people that constantly need prayer. And it's a reminder that we are here on this earth to love, to sacrifice, to speak truth, to have a relationship with God, to surrender and detach from the world. That's what we're called to do as leaders, as Catholic leaders. And so you want to be the best Catholic leader, we look to the best leader that we have, and that will always be Jesus Christ. So he made us all in his likeness and image, right? Every person is created in the image and likeness of God. Let me see the time, okay. It's respect and dignity. We have to lead with justice. We as Catholic leaders have to promote justice, equality, and the well-being of everyone, because we're all made in his likeness and image. Not just me, not just you, every single one of us. And what does that mean to be made in his likeness and image? Well, it means going back to these character traits. We have to be humble. We have to trust. We have to be prayerful, courageous, serve, and have mercy. So, I'm going to just skip up a little bit because I know there's a lot here. I want to share you an example. One of the other things that I have always done, which is not good, is I've always compared myself to people. Well, she's a better baseball player, Dad. He's like, so what? She's a better baseball player. She's taller. Well, there's nothing you can do about it. She's prettier. She's smarter. You know, she does a better job than me. I was constantly comparing myself. No, we are our own unique person with our own talents, our own strengths, our own weaknesses. We have to define our leadership based on the blessings God gave us. Joe, where's Joe who's singing in church, that amazing voice? I do not have a singing voice, Joe. God bless you. I can speak, I can't sing. Nobody wants to hear me sing. You have an amazing talent. God has blessed us all with talent for ourselves. He's also blessed us with charisms. How many of you know what charisms are? Do you guys all know what charisms are? So the Holy Spirit blesses us with charisms for the greater good, for God to bring others to Christ. So Joe, you probably not only have a talent, but that's a charism, because when you were singing, I felt the Holy Spirit. That's a charism. So we are to use our talents to develop ourselves, to go out and work in the world, but we're also supposed to use our charisms to bring others to Christ. How can we do that if we're constantly comparing ourselves to everybody else? God has a purpose for each and every one of us, and he's blessed with talents and charisms to fulfill that purpose. So I want to share with this is 1 minute, but I thought this was kind of a great analogy to this point. This is going to work because I shut the other one off, maybe not.
An elephant and a dog became pregnant at the same time. 3 months down the line, the dog gave birth to 6 puppies. 6 months later, the dog was pregnant again, and 9 months on it gave birth to another dozen puppies. The pattern continued. On the 18th month, the dog approached the elephant, questioning, "Are you sure that you are pregnant? We became pregnant on the same date." I have given birth 3 times to a dozen puppies, and they are now grown to become big dogs, yet you are still pregnant. What's going on? The elephant replied, there is something I want you to understand. What I am carrying is not a puppy, but an elephant. I only give birth to one in 2 years. When my baby hits the ground, the earth feels it. When my baby crosses the road, human beings stop and watch in admiration. What I carry draws attention. So what I'm carrying is mighty and great. Don't lose faith when you see others receive answers to their prayers in what seems like record time. Don't be envious of others' testimony. If you haven't received your own blessings, don't despair. Say to yourself, my time is coming, and when it hits the surface of the earth, people shall yield in admiration. Do not compare your journey to anyone else's.
So don't suffer in comparison.
An elephant and a dog became...
Sorry, again. All right. So know your strengths and know your weaknesses. One of the things that I do with clients all the time, I have them take a Gallup assessment. Anybody familiar with the Gallup assessment? It really measures where your talents are and where your weaknesses are. We all have them. We all have talents. We all have weaknesses. I always crack up because every time I have a client take this for the first time, that what do they naturally go to? What do they go to? They don't look at their talents, they go to their weaknesses. And they're like, why am I not good at that? I'm like, you're focusing on the wrong thing, okay? So we have to look at our talents. And my top 5 is, I'm someone who loves to learn. I like to communicate. I like input, where I like to take in data and research. I'm intellection, so I like to take a deep dive in topics. I'm individualization, where I like to get to know people one-on-one. These are my top 5 talents. You all have them. You all have top 10 talents, you all have bottom 10 talents. And this is a great measure. And what we do is we develop our leadership based on what our God-given talents are already existing. We're not trying to be somebody else. We're trying to be ourselves, okay? Authentic to ourselves. I'll go back to another quick story of the county. As a press secretary, I used to write all his speeches. I used to prepare him for all of his public engagements. I used to help him with all of his media interviews. Anything that had to do with communications, I was in charge of it. He would give this annual panel discussion at the Mackinac Policy Conference called the Big Four. He sat with the Oakland County Executive, the Macomb County Executive, the Wayne County Executive, and the mayor of Detroit. And we were preparing him for this, and my colleagues decided they wanted my boss to be funny. And I'm like, well, he's not funny. I go, and they're like, no, he's got to be funny because Brooks Patterson is funny and Kwame Kilpatrick is funny. And I'm like, yeah, but he's not funny. I go, our boss is not funny. So they're trying to give him jokes to say. I go, you guys, this is a big mistake. It's going to fall flat. Don't do this. And they're arguing with me. So I pulled him aside. I said, Bob, please don't. I'm like, if you find something natural that, that comes to mind, okay, be yourself, but don't try to one-up Brooks Patterson, who's so quick-witted. You're never going to win that. And so he said, oh, I'll see. So they're announcing everybody to come in and sit on the panel, and they announce my boss the first, and he comes in, he sits down. Then they announce Mark Hackle from Macomb County, he sits down. Then they announce Kwame Kilpatrick, and he sits down. Then they announce Brooks Patterson. And what does Brooks Patterson do? He walks in with an entourage of like 15 looking bodyguards that are like 7 feet tall, huge, and he's wearing sparkling, flashy earrings. He was making fun of Kwame Kilpatrick, okay? Everybody started laughing. It was roaring. And I'm looking at my coworkers and I said, try to get him to do that, one-up that. No way is he gonna make anybody laugh after that. You know what I mean? Because he's not naturally funny. We have to be authentic to who we are. Now, I'm not saying I agree with what Brooks did, but that was him. He was being Brooks Patterson in a political arena. You have to show up authentically with who you are. I fill in for Teresa Tommy a lot. I don't know how many listen to Ave. I'm not Teresa, and I don't try to be Teresa. I'm Vanessa filling in for Teresa. I don't go on Teresa's show pretending to be her. I go on being me, but it's her show. We have to show up with what God has equipped us to show up with. So this is what, like a top 10, this is somebody else's grid, and these are the top 10 talents. And we develop our leadership based on our given talents. So if you guys haven't taken it, I really encourage you to take the Gallup assessment, especially students at some point, as you head to college and looking where you want to study, you'll see what your natural talents are. We also have weaknesses in us. And the biggest misconception is, I'm going to make my weaknesses a strength. No, you're not. Your weaknesses are never, you're never going to wake up one day and have this amazing strength in you that was a weakness. I'm really bad at analyzing numbers. I hate them. I'm not gonna wake up one day and be this amazing financial advisor. I don't like looking at numbers. I don't even like doing my accounting. I make my husband do my billing because I don't like it, and I'm not good at it. So we have to manage our weaknesses by getting help from other people or using our talents to make up for our weaknesses. So you lead with your strengths and manage your weaknesses. The last thing I'm gonna lead you with is, you know who you are. You know who you belong to, right? Whose you are. We belong to God. We're made in his likeness and image. Jesus is our ultimate CEO. You know what you do based on your talents. You're gonna figure out your leadership style based on the talents God has given you. Now I want you to think about your why. I hope I don't have a problem playing this. Your why. Why do you do what you do? Why am I a coach? Why am I in communications? I'm a coach because I get the greatest joy of seeing my clients have epiphany moments and reach their greatest potential. I love developing people's leadership. I love looking at their talents and saying, this is how you need to develop your leadership style. Whether you're leading a little community group, a church group, or a major corporation, we all have to develop leadership, because you could be leading your household as a father, as a mother. You could be leading a church group, or you can be leading a major organization. We have to develop that leadership. But you also have to ask yourself, why do I do what I do? Why am I in this profession? Why did I volunteer for this community group? So know your why. So this is the last thing I'm going to leave you with. If I could see. Okay. Well, I'll do it this way, so I don't have any problems. My mouse. Sorry, guys. A little patient with me, because my mouse is not working. Okay. All right. I'm gonna go to this. Know your why. Okay. Michael Jr. is a comedian, and he's a clean comedian. I won't be playing this. He travels the country, but he's also a motivational speaker and a podcaster. And this is really important. This is know your why.
This is called How Do I Know? And a lot of times when people hear the phrase, how do I know, the next thing they say is what? How do I know what? But the key really isn't to know what, the key is to know why. Because when you know your why, you have options on what your what can be. For instance, my why is to inspire people to walk in purpose. My what is stand-up comedy. My what is writing books. My what can be going out with some friends to eat. In fact, another what that has moved me towards my why is a web series that we have out now called Break Time. So every Wednesday at 3 o'clock, you should subscribe to the channel. We do a series called Break Time on YouTube. So 3 o'clock, we drop a new episode. One episode in particular, I'm about to show you a clip to. We were in Winston-Salem. So Break Time, this is how it works. I travel the country, I do stand-up comedy, probably an hour and a half at an event. And in the middle of my show, I just sit down and start talking to the audience. And funny just happens. Or I'll meet somebody who's really interesting. So I met this one guy, and he said that he teaches music at a school. I was like, all right, you teach music, can you sing? And then I'm just gonna show you a clip. Check it. So you're a musical director.
Yes, sir.
All right, so let me get a couple bars of like Amazing Grace. Can you do the first part of that? Go ahead.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me.
Wow. That bro could sing. You know what I'm saying? All right. Now, what you give me the version is if your uncle just got out of jail, you got shot in the back when you was a kid. I'm just saying, let me see the hood version real quick, if you know what version I'm talking about. Just see if that exists. Let me see what you got.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me.
So here's the thing. The first time I asked him to sing, he knew what he was doing. The second time I asked him to sing, he knew why he was doing it. When you know your why, your what has more impact because you're walking in or towards your purpose.
So I'll leave you with this last note. I'm in ministry along with having my own communications company. I'm on Catholic radio, and that's ministry. And whether I have 1 million people listening, Teresa's nationally syndicated. She has 97% of the country, 600 stations listen to her. I have about 11. And we always joke, and I always say, see, this is not a competition. First of all, you're way past me, but this is not a competition. You know why? Because the end game is the same. The end game is trying to get back home and take as many people with us. So when I get there, I pray to God I hear, well done, my good and faithful servant, not get away from here, I don't know you. God's not going to say to me, well, Vanessa, Teresa brought 100 people here and you only brought 10. You know, that's not how it works. So the why we do what we do in life is so important. So think about your why and look to God as look to Jesus as your CEO and develop your leadership based on those God-given talents he's given you. So thank you for letting me be here and speak with you today.
I know Vanessa's got to get going, but she said she would stay on just for a couple minutes of Q&A if you had any questions. Let me mention a couple of things real quick. I was really joyfully surprised to discover, because I knew this was coming, they announced it at our parish up in the Lansing area, the new Ave Maria radio station.
Oh, yeah.
1390 AM. And I couldn't believe it. I listened to it all the way down 27, right up to the door front here. So I think you might be able to get it here in Jackson, depending on where the wires are, right? The interference. But so keep that in mind, and then you can listen to Vanessa noon, right?
Yeah.
On Ave Maria Radio. So,
Oh, thank you.
Here's your agent. No, just
And everybody else, they come out with a little Jesus.
I love
too.
that little Jesus, yeah.
All right.
That's great.
And Vanessa's
Little
card
bags,
too.
little bags he's giving on the way out. So, yeah, do you have any questions or comments? Yes, Father. Sure. Right, let me.
When I think of leadership, I think of someone who knows the why and knows a lot about it, but at the same time has the humility to recognize where they don't know, and then be sensitive to raise up people, who do know, and not be jealous of it. I mean,
Yeah.
praise God, we're going to accomplish the why. You know.
Yeah, amen to that, Father.
I don't know if you can speak to that.
That's a great point. So, research always shows the greatest leaders are those who surround themselves with people who are smarter than them. You want to surround yourself. Listen, we all have talents to bring to the table. We should be joyful when people have things that we don't have and lift them up. Because at the end of the game, to Father's point, we're just trying to get back home. We're trying to grow in our faith. Our time here is limited, and our end game should all be the same. So surrounding yourself with people who have better talents than you makes you a great leader. It doesn't take away from you. It actually makes you better at what you do, because you can have input from people who have things that you don't, and they'll lean on you. When I actually coach companies and how to put teams together, I look at their Gallup assessments and I say, okay, you need a mix here. You need people who are strong in different areas so they can complement each other and help each other out. So that's a very valid point, Father. And that's where humility comes into play, right? You shouldn't be jealous. Look at Scripture. You know, they were jealous of Jesus. The religious were jealous of Jesus, right? And instead of following him and being part of his ministry, they fought him. And so that's just a reminder that we're all blessed with wonderful talents, but let's be joyful to see other people's talents too. Great point. Yes, sir, you had a question.
With the idea of DEI in these days, how does a faithful Catholic that tries to convey the message of love of Jesus, and when people say, well, if you love everyone, you should be supportive of DEI, how do you respond to that?
So we are to love everyone, but we don't compromise our faith, right? You don't compromise. You love and you accept people, but you don't, you love people who are you love the person, not the sin, right? It's the sin that you don't like. So with DEI, in a workplace, it's really challenging to bring your faith to work. I understand that, especially in the secular world. You know, how do you bring your faith to work? And there's a lot of people who are hired, they're promoted, all for the wrong reasons, and that's going to continue happening. But we have to pray and discern where the Lord wants us, and do we need to be working in that work environment? Sometimes we just have to leave. You know, just like me, I had to leave because it wasn't a healthy work environment. And sometimes you have to pray and discern, Lord, if this is where you want me to be, I'm going to be the voice of contradiction and stand up for truth, despite what might happen to me, or you're going to leave me out of here. Sometimes those are, I wrote my thesis on bullies in the workplace. It's not exactly the same, but it's similar. You can't stop a bully from being a bully, but you can stop a bully from bullying you, right? You can't stop a company's culture if it's created by the leadership. You can do what you can to stand up and speak truth, but oftentimes you're not going to change the whole culture. And if you can't change it, sometimes you have to get out. I mean, those are tough decisions we have to make in our life, you know. Fortunately, a lot of that DEI is changing, but it doesn't mean you don't love the person too. I mean, you love the person, you speak truth. I've had friends and family that, you know, have come to me about issues of homosexuality, and I speak to them, I love you as a person, but what you're doing is a sin. I have to speak truth. I mean, you can't act on it. I mean, we have to stand up and speak truth, and how hard as it may be. And those people might not want to be in our lives anymore, but we have to stand up and speak truth. I hope that helped you.
Yeah.
Any other question? Yes.
Do you have a website that you have those 40 Lenten leadership tips?
They're actually all on my Facebook page, but if you go to my website, you can get to my Facebook. Communications Evangelist Vanessa Denha Garmo. It's on Facebook, LinkedIn, X, TikTok, it's all on there by name. The only one that's a little different is my Facebook is Communications Evangelist Vanessa Denha Garmo, but it's all on there, and I've been posting every single day. Any other questions? I only got to like 3 or 4 of those tips today because we didn't have enough time. But
That's great.
any other comments?
I think we're good.
Okay, go ahead.
How do you think you got good at communication?
Wait, say that again, honey.
How do you think that you got good at communication?
Okay, that's a good question. I'm going to tell you a story. I think it's just naturally in me, and I'll tell you a story. I have 6 sisters, okay? And first of all, I had to be very loud to be heard. I was right in the smack in the middle. And my dad used to joke, he had a picture framed of me as a little baby because I was screaming. And he goes, you came out screaming, you haven't shut up since. And I've always been, I really think it's just in me. But when I was young, and this is a good thing for you guys to think about when you think about your careers. Think about what you love to do as a kid. And I'll tell you a quick story. When I was young, I loved to read and I loved to write. I did. I used to literally beg my mom to take me to the library in the middle of the summer while my sisters were begging to go to the wave pool. And my mom, in her broken English, would say, okay, get your book from the library, go to the wave pool. I'm like, I don't want to be at the wave pool. I want to be sitting at the library reading. But she would let me go get my book, and I'd go sit at the wave pool while my sisters, I love the wave pool, but I love to read. It was naturally just in me, right? So I developed it over time. I had a sister who used to love to take all of our dolls. She used to cut their hair and put makeup on them, and she ended up owning a hair salon. I had another sister who used to love to play car salesman. She used to go to the auto show, and this is when we were younger. They have a different, remember you guys used to collect the brochures? Who used to go to the auto store and you'd go to all the cars and you get the brochure? She used to come home and play car salesman with the neighborhood kids, you know what I mean? She ended up owning her own mortgage company. She was in sales, right? I had another sister who used to love to get worms. It was so gross. And she used to dissect them and see what was in them. And she studied biology, and today she's a mortician. She a mom's body. So how did I get good at communications? I was born, I believe, with that talent. I really think God gifted that to me. And then I just developed it. You know, I just fell into communications because I felt naturally drawn into communications. Does that make sense? So think about what you guys loved to do as a kid. What was your favorite thing to do as a kid? I guarantee you it'll translate into some kind of career. So think about that. Any other comments or questions? All right, thank you. Oh, go ahead, honey.
There was something about you having written books. What were they about?
So I wrote a book years ago that I don't recommend you reading right now, because if I wrote it today, it would be differently. It was called I Knew I Was a Woman When, and it was before I really grew in my faith, and I really do want to rewrite that. I wrote a book called Conversations That Create the Culture, and that's about communication audits and about how we communicate creates the culture in which we live. And that's like a 40-page book on Amazon and Ave Maria Radio. I'm in the middle of, I just sent a book on leadership to a publishing house, and they're reading it. They came back with positive feedback. I'm waiting for the money guy to give me the go-ahead that they're going to publish it. So hopefully that'll be out this year, and that's on Catholic leadership. Any other questions? Thank you all. Pleasure to be here.